Hey guys, it's John Alisi with Statsational, and today I'm going to talk about the Wong Teasers. Teasers in general, but specifically the Wong Teasers, and I'm kind of thinking about that right now because this week, preseason week 1 in the NFL, was a absolute crusher for the Wong Teasers, and I did really well with them, and I want to share it with you, and hopefully you can use these little tips in the future and maybe this season and make a couple of bucks. So what they are, firstly, what a teaser is, if you don't know, is where you can move a game, and in the NFL you can move the game 6 points, sometimes 6.5. Some books may even have 7, but in my case, you can move the game 6 points at minus 110 for a two-team teaser. So you can move off of whatever number your book offers by 6 points in your favor. So if a game is at minus 10, I can then move that game down to minus 4, and I can pick another game that's, say, plus 7 and move that up to plus 13. And then both legs of that teaser need to win for me to win my bet if this is a two-team teaser. You could also do 3 teams and 4 teams. It's all going to be based on your book, and they're going to offer different prices based on how many games you do and how many points you're allowed to move the line. So you really have to be conscious of that, because every nickel in juice is going to change the percentages and the probabilities, or not the probability, but it'll change the percentage you need to be successful in order to make a profit. So your break even is going to change, obviously, based on the juice. Now, the Wong Teasers and why they're successful. The Wong Teasers we want to move the games that are minus 7.5, minus 8, and minus 8.5 down to minus 2.5, 2, and 1.5. And conversely, we want to move the games that are plus 1.5, plus 2, plus 2.5 up to plus 7.5, plus 8, and plus 8.5. Why those specific numbers? Well, I think most of you probably know the games in the NFL land on 3, 4, and 7 most often. And how often they land on those, I'm not sure if you know that or not, but in the range of 3 to 7, the margin of victory, or the margin, the victory margin differential in NFL games from 3 to 7 is almost 40%. So that means almost 40% of games that you watch on Sunday will end on a differential between 3 and 7. That's a big number. And that's the reason the Wong Teasers are the most powerful teasers you can possibly play. You want to be able to cross that 3 and 7. So if you're just going from 1 up to 7, it doesn't work as well, because that 7 is hit on such a high frequency that you're going to bring in a lot more pushes, and it's going to make the system less profitable. So those 3 numbers we want to move off. It's really 6 numbers, but we want to move 3 numbers off of favorites and the 3 numbers off of the dogs, and cross the 7 and the 3. One other thing about teasers: never ever tease a game from favorite to dog. It makes no sense, right? So the 0 virtually never hits in the NFL. Virtually no games end in a tie. We've probably had, I think we might have had a couple last year, but that's like, it's shocking when games end in ties, and we may have a few more with the new rules, but it's still not going to hit at a high enough frequency for the 0 to ever be worth getting off of. And likewise, the ones the games don't end on a 1 all that often, especially with the 2-point conversion in play. All right, so teams down 8 now can either lose the game by 2 or send the game to overtime. So we want to avoid moving off of numbers that just don't hit. And I don't think a lot of people think about that often, but you just don't want to move off or through numbers that have no chance of landing on anyway, right? And you'll see this when you're looking at how sports books move the line, just the actual line on the game. They'll very easily move a game from -1 to +1. It doesn't take a lot to do that, because they're not worried about losing a middle from -1 to +1. But to move a game from 3 to 4 is a huge move. And sportsbooks are going to be reluctant to do it because of the fact that they open themselves up to a big middle, right? And a middle being they can lose on both sides. They can lose, or let's say they move from a 3 to 3.5 to 4, And when they get to that 4, all sorts of underdog money starts piling in. They're now open to all the bets that they took at 3, at -3 being pushes, and all the bets that they took on the underdog at +4 being winners. So they open themselves up to getting middled and getting crushed on a game. They don't want to do that. And because they don't want to do it, you want to be able to move off the 3 or through the 3 and through the 7. Moving games between the -2 and +2, sportsbooks don't care much about those moves, and you're wasting your money and time trying to make those sort of moves, moving games from -3 to +3, just not worth it. Too many dead numbers in there for you to be worried about. The other thing with the teasers is totals. Now, I've looked into detail on totals, trying to see maybe there's a sweet spot, kind of like between the 3 and the 7 on spread bets. Maybe there's a sweet spot on totals. The summary of that is there is none. I was looking right near the average, which is about 47 points per game in the last couple of years in the NFL. Maybe we can find a plus or minus 3 points in that range where we could get a bulk of the games land on that number. It doesn't happen. So really on the totals, there's no good strategy to be teasing totals. So, I'll see it, these teasers, you might get a Sunday night game teaser, the Monday night game teaser, because you like one side of the game and you're going to tease it with the over or the under. Don't do it. Avoid those bets. Very difficult to win unless you have some sort of a system that is not just blindly betting the games or not blindly picking the totals. If you have something proven, that's a different story. But this Wong system is really blindly taking teams in the ranges that I said. So you have no handicapping. You're absolutely not looking at anything. You're just going to play those games. Now, if you couple that with some handicapping skills, if you've got some sort of model or you're following a system or model that works, and then you incorporate the Wong Teasers, whenever one of the games in that model matches a Wong Teaser and you're able to tease that game with another, well, that's just going to make it even more powerful. But I just want to give you an overview of what the Wong Teasers are and how you can benefit from them, and hopefully you'll take it this weekend and do just as well as I did here in week 1 of the preseason.